So the first time I tried Google Drive, I hated it. Oh, and I've got friends on the Drive team, so I'm sure it doesn't leave the room. But I was working for a company, a Fortune 200 company. This is 10 years ago. And we were in the middle of our migration when we went and switched over to Google Workplace and, or Workspace. And when I first started, we got all of our tools and we started putting all of our files into Google Drive, and it was just the strangest thing to think of, okay, I have to go get my things from a browser now? Like, this used to be on my desktop, right? I don't trust that this is. A browser's for, web pages. And so worked through it, worked through my struggles with it, but still it was, it was difficult, it was change. Well, fast forward to about a month before our go live, and I was in Varese, Italy, in this beautiful small town in northern Italy, and I had breakfast in the morning, and I'm sitting there, and it was, if you've never had breakfast in a small town in Italy, the tomatoes, I don't know how they do it, but it's incredible. And so it was just the sun shining, and I get up to leave, and my bag is gone. And somebody had stolen my backpack that had my passport in it. Yeah, and that wasn't the worst. I had my wife's brand new camera in it. That was harder to explain than the passport. But then I had my computer in it, and it was gone. And so what I did was, I called our IT group, and I said, hey, my bag's been stolen. The only technology I still have left is my cell phone. And so, wipe because we had Chromebooks. I'm like, wipe the Chromebook. So they wiped the Chromebook, then they wiped my cell phone. But anyway, and we're still friends. But the whole point was I went into the office and I borrowed a Chromebook. Everything was there. I mean, it was a little scary thinking about it, but everything was there. I had all of my files. I had everything. And I had everything. I was in charge of the change. So I had our project plans. I had all of our scripts in multiple languages. We would have had to have stopped the project and put a couple extra months in just to redo all that work. So I was hooked. I got it. It made sense to me, right? So today, what we're going to do is I have the honor of speaking with some other customers that have actually gone through the same type of change that I went through. We'll introduce you in a second here and bring them on stage. My name's Andrew Lewis. I'm on a team at Google called the Outbound Product Management Team. And what we do is we work with our largest customers to help them understand our strategy and get the most out of their investment in Workspace. But then also we work directly with them to understand the work that they're doing and try and make sure that we bring all of that in and infuse it into our strategy. So what I'm going to do is give us a little grounding here, because some are on Workspace, some aren't on Workspace. And so we've got a little bit of a background that we're going to do. And I'll give you my preamble, and then we'll bring them up and have some good conversation. And the goal is to have Q&A at the end so that you can ask some questions as well. So first of all, super basic. What is Google Workspace? Google Workspace is our productivity suite. And we think of it in a number of different factions. There's our collaboration components, which is docs, sheets, slides. There's a communication group, which is Gmail, Calendar, Google Meet for video conferencing, Google Chat for instant messaging. And then there's a storage component of this in Google Drive, like I talked about, which is this large-scale storage and security. Now, there's also a big security component to this and a layer underneath that. And we're going to talk and dig a little bit into that here before we get too far. But the way that we think of this is we think of it as a platform. So it's not a number of individual tools, but it's really a platform of all of these tools, and the benefit of that is how they work together. And so we think of it as user journeys, right? Not just feature to feature to feature, but it's really trying to understand the work that people are doing and make sure that we're answering the work that they're doing and helping them through that with the tools. On top of all of this, we do have a really rich third-party ecosystem and open APIs, so it's a very extendable platform. Now, speaking of users, there's a lot of them. So we are actually right now the most popular productivity tool globally. But obviously proud of those numbers, but the way that we think of those, each of those is an individual. Everybody works a little bit differently. Everybody has different workflows and things that they do with these tools, and we really try and put that at the core of how we design our strategy and the tools that we bring into market for folks. So this week, you may or may not hear anything about generative AI. So we're not going to dig into it today in this session. But the thing I did want to point out before we go into it is that AI is not new to Google Workspace. We've had things, it's always been a part of the tools. We've had things like Type Ahead and Smart Reply, our malware detection and prevention in Gmail behind the scenes to keep everybody safe is all AI-based. And then noise cancellation, things like that in Google Meet. So there's an entire AI component that isn't new to Workspace. And so just want to kind of point that part out, but obviously you will have plenty of opportunities to learn about generative AI throughout the week. And in fact, I'm going to be working in a booth doing prompting, so if anybody wants to learn how to prompt, I'd be more than happy to hang out with you and do some of that. So why would you switch to Google Workspace? So a couple of things, and the one I was going to start with here is security. Now, it's, you don't have to be a security expert to listen to the news and hear about the massive ransomware attacks, and those are actually on the rise, right? Each one of those attacks has a recovery cost, a business downtime cost, right? It's a challenge to keep up with the pace of the security breaches that are going on. And so the way that we approach this Workspace is different. So from the ground up, we were born in the cloud. So going into the cloud and using links and the way that we do all of the work it isn't new to us, right? It's not something that we had to shift into because technology changed. This is where we were born. And so there's a few components of it. So first of all, it's zero trust architecture is kind of part and parcel to Workspace. And what that means is that everything's in the cloud. You don't use any attachments. And that's a huge deal. So if you think about sending an attachment out, when I take and I attach something to an email, and now I send that email out, it's in the Wild West. I mean, it's gone. I may as well have printed it and sent a letter. You have zero control over who has that data, who they've sent it on to, and God forbid you send out the wrong data to the wrong distribution group or the wrong spreadsheet to the wrong supplier, or there's no way to claw that back easily, right? And so this zero trust architecture with us, what it is, everything is a link. It's in the cloud. If I want to share something with somebody, I put their name on it, I share it with them. If I want to stop sharing it, I take their name off and they immediately lose access to it. And so all of that security is in the hands of the people that are actually sharing their information and their data. The other part is that it's actually, we run in the cloud. So everything is browser-based or our apps. And then there's no on-prem applications. And part of that's exciting is that means there's no patching, there's no security, security patches or things like that to patch vulnerabilities. Everything's in the cloud. The other is, if you really want to get into the security component, and we're not going to dig too deep in this, but client-side encryption is really, if you're interested in that, there's some great sessions this week about it. But client-side encryption, that's really the kind of the golden goose to your security, where you own the encryption keys to your data. And nobody can take and get into your data, not even Google to support you or anything like that. It is absolutely yours. And so anyway, and the other part of this is that obviously all this runs on the same infrastructure that we have that supports our 3 billion users. And so you're getting the scale and the background of all of that work in your domain when you go live with your businesses. So how many have ever heard this when they're working with their employees? This is one of these things where if you hear this, well, oh, we've always done it this way, right? For me, what that means is that we've got a process here that's old, okay? It's probably not supported, which means it probably was built by somebody that was in the company that maybe doesn't even work there anymore. And it's not scalable or efficient, right? There's just a lot of organic processes that have grown up, kind of paving the cow paths, right? Or people working with the tools that they had at their disposal. Doesn't mean those are the tools that you really want to go forward with and modernize. And so when we think of things like this, customers that go with Workspace, they go with Workspace because they're ready to transform their business. They want to actually change processes like this, modernize them, think about how they really want to work, and then get those tools in the hands of their employees and let them go and let them do the work and let them, empower them to make broad changes to the organization. So when we think about change, right, there's two components to this. One is the technical change. And the technical change is, your migration and your data migration, and how do you do that and move it into Workspace. We've got a few ways to go about that in services and tools. And so for anybody that's got over 1,000 seats that you're moving in, we've got a tool called the Workspace Migrate. And what that does is it takes your data and it puts it into a single domain. It never leaves your network. And then the thing to remember is that once that's in your Google domain, that's yours, right? So you retain ownership of that data. We don't sell any of that information or to third parties. The Google Workspace and Google doesn't do any advertising in there. So it's your domain. And so that Migrate will migrate the data in there. The other part is we have a rich partner ecosystem. And so with their own processes and ways to get people in the data in and the migration in. So that's the technical component. But the exciting part of this actually is the people part of it. And so there's really very few chances that you have to touch every employee in your company in a positive way and make broad, sweeping culture changes. And when I say culture, I don't mean your history or your background or your culture like that. I'm talking about work habits, right? And it's really an opportunity to look at the way that people are working and on a broad way, pull them into the future. And so when we talk about change management, I think a lot of times we apologize for change management and think of it like, oh, it's change management, we're managing change, right? This is something you have to do because you're moving over. There's a component of that, right? There's a component of education and awareness. But the exciting part about this is an opportunity. And it's an opportunity to really leapfrog and get, inspire your company and inspire your employees to actually work in a different way. And so for us, this is a way to help your company be more resilient to change, empower your employees, and honestly, we think of this as a differentiator with Workspace, not something that's a have to do, right? This is the thing you want to do. If you give employees these new tools and they continue to work in the same way as the old way, then you're really kind of missing a huge opportunity here. So with that, my preamble's over, we can get to the fun part. So I'd like to invite 3 folks up to the stage that have a ton of experience in this realm. And so first off, we're going to start with Michele Araujo. And it's okay to... Secondly, we've got Steve Banick from TELUS, and then Ashley Hatter from Trellix. And I apologize, Michele was the first one, so Michele's from Workday. So, all right, so let's get started. And if you could, just introduce yourselves, please. A little bit about what you do and
Okay, I can start. So Michele Araujo, 12 years on Workday, previously with Big Pharma, now with Workday for a few months in the digital employee experiences space, and I'm passionate about digital experiences, and now leveraging to make the workplace, easier, more productive has been like my daily job, and I absolutely love it. So happy to be here.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Steve Banick. I'm the leader of enterprise IT services for TELUS, which started out as this reasonably small Canadian company with now 35,000 employees or thereabouts in Canada, but we have over 100,000 employees globally. I'm responsible for enabling team members to be productive and unlock all of the potential that they have using great tools like Workspace and many others in our ecosystem.
And hi, I'm Ashley Hatter. I'm Senior Director of Enterprise Technology here at Trellix. Recently led our Google Workspace migration within 3 months at Trellix, but I'm fortunate to be able to have the opportunity to have migrated 3 companies to Google Workspace. Really passionate about transformative technology projects, and in my spare time, love hanging out with my family and training for triathlons with my husband.
All right, so let's get started. And Ashley, we'll start with you. So why did you switch to Workspace? Like, what was the impetus for that?
Yeah, I think our top priority is always creating exceptional experiences, not just for our customers and partners, but always for our employees at our company. When we have the right tools and technology, we can do better together. The other thing is really unlocking and activating mobile applications, being able to be connected to any device with an internet connection, and being logged into your company. The other was looking at benefits with AI features, and then, of course, our favorite feature about Workspace is real-time collaboration.
Cool.
So we've been on the Workspace journey in TELUS for about 8 years. We started out small. We started out just with the collaboration suite, as Andrew described it. Then we jumped in for the vast majority of our team members entirely in, deep end of the pool, I guess I should say, over the last 18 months. And it started at its most nascent with team members demanding it. Team members that were newer to the workforce, more likely to embrace digital ways of working. They really pushed and championed this. And what's been fantastic to see is it's spread across our organization, those who are long tenured like me, as well as those that are just brand new to the workforce.
Good story, Steve. So for me, it was bringing big pharma, over 100,000 people globally to Workspace. And what drove the change was the necessity to enhance collaboration. So after a large acquisition, both companies had a lot to learn and share with each other, but you're running into collaboration issues, compatibility issues, calendar issues. You could not see each other's availability. It was hard to meet. Like, you cannot exchange information because software was not compatible, platforms were not compatible. And we are also running into some video conferences, increased costs, paying per minute, that situation. And that was not at all sustainable. So that was the big drive for change.
Oh, all right. I have a question for you on the, maybe somebody else talk. No. So you mentioned about, wow, this is bad. You mentioned about the, I'm wondering, there we go. I knew they'd get it. All right. You mentioned about the newer employees in the workforce, right? Mm-hmm. And we see that a lot. I know my son's in college, and the way that they do notes in class is vastly different than when I was a kid, right? You would take notes in class, and if you're sick, you have to find a friend. So they all do one set of notes, right? And they just collaborate because the majority of kids are on Workspace in college and in high schools. Are you seeing that type of that type of transition easier when those folks come into the...
Oh, hands down. Like for all of us who in our historical career have dealt with, do you have version number 6 or version number 7?
Oh, God.
Like the notion that we all live in one common document to share ideas and can see both synchronously and asynchronously changes in collaboration taking place, it is transformative. Like we're at the point where even with our most senior executives, they're very comfortable and conversant in using Google Workspace. And what's fantastic about that is it's actually reduced the amount of toil and work that we invest in a lot of our work products or materials, because we have leaders, we have team members who are accustomed to going into sessions with collaboration in mind, rather than I'm expecting an end product. So not only do we see the benefits of people working together and what that does to culture, we've also managed to eliminate a large portion of the waste and toil that would take place preparing for executive meetings and the like, because we've changed the mindset of how team members work.
Nice. All right, so let's move on to the next one here. So how did switching to Workspace impact your company's overall culture? So is this...
Do you want to use this? I think we are good now. In terms of culture, mine is working, right? Yes. In terms of culture, migrating over to Workspace definitely changed the way we collaborated globally. Again, over 100,000 people, and we became more collaborative, more productive, and more inclusive, because you could have different perspectives. You're not exchanging your individual files. And I know it's like, we take it for granted right now, right? But I'm talking about 2012 here. It was different. Not having to, and I'm giving my age here, right? Anyways, so not having to fight to figure out what is the latest version of a file, and not having to pay per minute anymore. We could just talk and collaborate as much as we wanted. And that was truly a game changer in our company, in our culture.
Yeah, I mean, for us, Michelle hit the nail on the head. At real-time collaboration, everyone's working together in one common document. We've seen a lot of people, when they're building content for our CEO and our board, they're now designing that all in one, like Google slide presentation. The other thing is promoting a fun environment. Google is fun. There's a lot of fun that you can have and do with your employees within Google Workspace. And the other is we've seen a lot of our employees be more innovative. They're taking what they were doing before and finding better ways to do it faster. So whether that's with AppSheet or building things within Google Sheets and working together. So I think those three are probably the biggest things that we've seen.
Yeah, I love the point about changing the ways of working, and I'll be transparent, like we're still on a journey, as I think everyone is, but it's very easy to come into the workspace world and how do I equate this to exactly what I did before? What this has helped encourage is a change, again, in mindset and how people work. So that's a big part of a successful culture when we think about the changes not only today, but when we prepare our workforce for the future. It's how do we get them conditioned to thinking and working in different ways. And quite candidly, I don't think we would have had some of the same success had we not shifted to Google Workspace.
All right. So actually, let's go back to you. How did you champion the change?
Yeah, I love this question because technically speaking, and you mentioned this early in your presentation, it's not a very difficult from a technical migration standpoint. Sure, we can take your data here and move your data there. The hardest part about this change is the people. You're impacting what they've known, what they've done, what they do, their everyday tasks. So really having a great, robust change management strategy to make sure that you are helping the people and the employees within your company. One way we did that is we really leveraged early access phases. We always joked internally that our enterprise technology team, we're drinking our own champagne. We want to make sure that by the time that we go live globally, we're giving our employees the best bottle that they have. So enterprise technology was our phase one. It allowed us to test and learn, make sure that for our next phase, we were making any modifications that we needed, not just technically speaking, but from a communication or training standpoint to our employees. The second phase that we did was our executive leadership team, and that really helped us get buy-in from senior leadership top down. And then the third phase, which I think is an extremely important phase, is what we called Google Guides. And so this was volunteers across the organization, not just within different business units, but really hitting globally speaking. And that was to allow us to hit a larger group of people, but they also were going to help us be champions of this change. They can help navigate their own teams within this transition. So the early access phases, and then also we created a steerco, and that allowed our executive leadership team to nominate one person from each of their organization, and we stayed really close with them. We had weekly meetings, and it was a two-way street. So we were communicating to them, keeping them really close with what was going on, especially when we were doing this in 3 months. So we needed to make sure that they had the most up-to-date information that they can funnel down to their teams. But it was a really great way for them to bring us feedback. So what are their teams saying? What are the challenges their teams are feeling? And then that allowed us to, modify any of our processes that we needed to. And the other thing, I know I said it, but fun. Like, have fun with this. This is a great opportunity to lean in, create community with your employees. We did things on global launch days where we had office parties to have people to come in. There was food. We had swag, take pictures. We also had on-site hub spots for people to come and ask questions. So really lean in and have fun with your employees, because this isn't just an opportunity to make the workspace better, but it's to bring your employees together as well.
So I have to ask, Go Lives are fun. So anybody else have?
First off, I'm going to now use drink our own champagne instead of eat our own dog food. I'll just echo the importance of change champions, and in particular having those closest to the people doing the work. Because no matter how well intended you are or how well prepared you are, say, for example, as a technology team, someone who lives and breathes the challenges and the pain and the pressures that someone deals with every single day, helping them through the change, is incredible. That's what gives credibility to the entire transformation. The other important lesson that we learned, and maybe it's common sense, is you're not done at day one. There's day 61, day 365, and so forth. So our team does a lot of, for example, every few weeks sharing on our internal portal tips and tricks with little videos and ways to bring it to life. And it's amazing the response rate that we get from our teams from those kinds of things and keeping it alive.
I agree 100% here. Like, you covered everything, and I would just add maybe one thing, which is to learn from the people who are somewhat resisting the change. There is usually a reason for that, and it's not that they're against you or against IT. It's not about that. This is about us trying to change the way they're trying to get to their business goal. Like, go prevent a salesperson from selling something. You're creating an enemy there. So that's, my team, we all put a lot of effort in that, understanding our users, what to be, changing, and how we could enable them to succeed day one.
All right, so next up, Steve, let's go back to you. So how did switching to Google Workspace impact your company's overall culture?
I think one of the things that I'm first off, I'm old. I've been with TELUS for over 25 years, and I've seen the company evolve and change. And one of the things that I'm incredibly proud of our culture is we embrace change. We try new things. That being said, it becomes harder and harder as an organization starts to have practices and procedures and ways of working getting institutionalized. And what's been really great through Workspace, along with other initiatives that we're doing, is it's represented a way that we can keep that nourishing of new things all the time. Like, one of the things that I in particular love about Workspace is new capabilities coming along every quarter. And that not only helps our team members be more productive, which is of course mission number one for us, but number two is it conditions our team to constantly experiment and try with new things. That's something that we have to keep alive, ongoing for long-term success.
And I want to echo on to that. I think seeing Google come out with new features all the time really helps empower your employees. The first company that I did this transition with, Google Meet used to be called Google Hangouts, and it only allowed 25 people to be on a meeting at the same time. Now Google Meet allows up to 500 people. So it's really cool to see these changes. The other thing, too, is we just heard in the keynote they are announcing Google Vids. And so that's another great way that employees are coming together to collaborate and be closer to the technology that we have. So yeah, I mean, just Google constantly innovating is training, exactly what Steve said, your employees to be willing to try new things or see what the latest things are out there, and that's benefit to your company as well.
100%. And this is another benefit of being on the cloud and trusting a partner. So they're thinking about the technology, the innovation, what is the next big thing in terms of collaborating in the workspace and in the workplace. And employees, we can focus on our business. You can focus on what is important and focus on our mission. So I really like that about our SaaS solution, especially Workspace.
All right. And then, let's see here. Steve, we're back to you on this one. So were there any specific tools, that made, with Workspace that made a surprising difference to how your teams worked?
It's a hard question to answer just because we have such a broad organization, but I think there's probably two that immediately come to mind. First, I'll talk about Google Meets, Hangouts, whatever term you want to use. We have our origins in being a telecommunications company. We're very proud of our capabilities and our prowess in that. Do you know how difficult it was to have a telecommunications company embrace Google Hangouts and then Google Meets as the predominant way of working? But we've done that. And what it's done is it's taken some of the I'll build off of your theme of the fun, like some of the mechanical nature of meetings and brought in that spirit of fun and interactivity. We've been a virtual workforce or a largely remote workforce for almost 20 years. And it certainly accelerated over the last few years, as we all know why, but we were already conditioned to that. But what Google Meet allowed us to do is still keep that degree of intimacy or connection with people with very low overhead, very low complexity for our team members to interact with this. The other is Google Chat. We have had asynchronous chat tools in our organization for lots of years, but the fact that this is a ubiquitous tool that's used by all team members across the organization just, again, increases the immediacy and the intimacy across the entire team and, coincidentally, cut down on a whole lot of email, which is another nice side benefit. Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that goes a little maybe under the covers is the mobile apps are really a game changer. I've had multiple employees come up to me and be like, someone has needed to get a communication out the door at the last minute and I'm in the grocery store at 7 p.m. They pull up their phone, look at the comm in Google Docs, and then they're like, that's good, or make a few comments and move on with their day. So really, truly being connected from any device anywhere with an internet connection, I think was the best thing about that.
It's hard to mention just one, but I would say slides, just because the two of you didn't mention it. It was a big game changer. Like, it would have someone in finance changing a forecast number, and we didn't have to go for the last version of whatever, right? So we had it there. It was fresh. Salesperson would get it, be ready for the sales pitch. So that was truly a game changer and highly appreciated capability that Workspace brought to us.
So right now, why don't we actually open it up for questions? That's all right?
100%.
Can we get some mics? Are there anyone that has, there's a lot of experience on the stage right now. So is there anybody that has any questions about their experience or things that they've done? Okay, good. I was going to say, it's not that early in the morning yet. Mm-hmm.
Check, check. Thank you all for your time. I was actually waiting for the last comment that you mentioned there, and it had to do with the finance team, because that's been the area we've struggled the most, is getting them to adopt Google Sheets and move away from the other guy.
I think that's probably a common challenge for many of us, and there are some good reasons. I love the point that you made before, in that you need to understand what's the barrier for a particular team member or team to embrace. And what we've been, and we're on a journey, we're still working through it, but at least in our finance organization, we have some very willing partners, and they use lots of Workspace in different areas, but certain aspects of their role, because of other aspects in or other parts of our ecosystem, they can't quite fully embrace the Google Workspace journey, but we're working with them on ways that we can overcome that. In some cases, it's marrying up with some technology evolution, and we're doing in other areas, or finding different ways of doing things. And in most cases, some of them may be a little longer, but in most cases we found there is a way around these problems, but it takes some concentrated time and partnership with those groups to really understand the issue and what the art of the possible is. And that's where technology teams come into play, because we know more of what the full potential is, not only with Workspace, but across the entire Google ecosystem, that many of our stakeholders just simply don't have the background on. And when we paint the picture of what they can do, they're like, whoa, that's mind-blowing. They never thought they could do that before. They just needed help.
Adding to what you just said, Steve, what it did to help our guys in finance, or our community in finance, was to set up lab hours. It started with finance and it opened up to the entire organization. So we'd have Google experts, like actually Googlers in our team. Hey, bring your use case. Let's see how we can fix this for you or migrate you over. Surprisingly, more than 90% of the use cases were just a matter of understanding how to do it on Google Sheet. So that was a game changer. And there was another one where we just could automate something, leverage the macros, migrate it. So most of the times there is a way. It's about listening to them and bringing experts to guide them through the migration to the conversion.
Hi there. I've got 15 years of experience of Workspace. I've seen that through roughly 500 migrations. What's your thought on mixed environments? Because I guess with the other guy, still having licenses, or have you been able to offboard them fully? So that is kind of a friction to adoption. What's your thought?
Honestly, rip the Band-Aid off as fast as you can. I think having the hybrid environments just adds another layer of complexity to your migrations. When you have people on 2 different calendars, like, people can't see their availability. People may be deleting events and you see them still hanging on some other calendars. So the quicker that you can migrate everyone over, I think you will be better for it. We've been a part of a team who's done this 3 times, and we were able to move Trellix so quickly because we tried to get everyone off the other guy as quick as possible. I think the other thing too that kind of slows down the migration process is you spend a lot of time trying to unwind the SKUs behind your previous platform and trying to map them to a dozen different security tools. And at least for this migration, I think we were also able to do it so quickly because Google Workspace collaboration platform complemented our cybersecurity platform really well. So we didn't have to spend all that time unwinding all those different SKUs.
Mixed environments aren't fun. They're challenging, and there are often legitimate business reasons that we have to have it. Full transparency, although the vast majority of our workforce is on Workspace, we do have teams that are not for reasons that we just can't overcome at this point in time. What's been interesting out of that, we've certainly had to invest a lot of energy in working through how to make sure the worlds can coexist and minimize the friction as much as possible. And there are certain aspects where we've been able to push almost everybody in quite quickly. The other really important thing that we've seen is for those that aren't part of it, they start to get hungry for it. It creates friction in a lot of our business partners and our stakeholders saying they want to be moved over, which is helping break down some of the barriers that might have inhibited transition in the past. But it'll clearly be each organization's unique challenges, but I don't think anybody would argue being all in one as fast as you can is ideal.
I would add, though, what you just said about people are hungry for it. One thing that we did in this transformation is we gave everyone Google Drive access from the beginning. So allowing your employees to get their hands on it, because having access to Google Drive doesn't necessarily impact your migration. So you're letting the employees play around with it and actually see those benefits real time, I think is another thing that helps along the way.
I would just say get the senior leadership sponsorship to get all of this done. That worked for me. We have another hand there.
I was just going to ask, one of the biggest things preventing a migration for us is migrating all of our data from previous tools and platforms. We have years of tickets and everything with Atlassian and Slack and everything else that we would want to definitely keep. What kind of migration help or integrations do you have for smaller companies that don't have, 1,000 employees to move over?
Is your question more specific to like
Sorry,
other tools that are not Workspace tools and trying to bring them onto Google Workspace?
It was actually more a question for Andrew, I guess, because you had mentioned that you guys can help with 1,000-seat customers with migrating over to Workspace. We're a much smaller team, but it's a move I think we'd like to make. And just curious what kind of assistance you guys have for that.
Yeah, so the way I would look at it, and I'll be candid, I don't have experience with a smaller group. Mine was large. But our partner ecosystem does, right? And so and you'll see them all throughout here. There's very strong partners that have a lot of experience in that. And so, I mean, I think that's the direction that I would point you to.
The only other comment I would add, and I appreciate the scale of the team that you're part of is going to be very different than what I'm contending with, but really scrutinize how much do you truly need to bring. Like that's just a principle generally when we do technology migrations. There are certain things we absolutely need to bring with us and there's inherent value in it. And there are some things that are nice to have but maybe not worth the encumbrance. So that might be another angle that if you haven't already explored that you might want to look at.
All right. So yeah, the last one here.
Last but not least, when you make sort of an all-in switch and understanding that's multimodal, you're going to get across it from a couple of different directions. You're going to have Google Guides, all that other good stuff. Do you just march everyone through Google Workspace training for the next 2 months of their lives, or do you just kick them in the pool and see what happens? I mean, honestly, I work both with the government and the community, and the training aspect and the sort of white glove treatment is where we spend a lot of our energy. And the questions come up recently for us, how much of that energy where is it best spent with minimal number of trainers, advocates?
That's a great point. And if I can leave an advice for anyone considering migration is invest a lot in change management and enablement. And it's not enablement in the traditional way, like the days you will lock everyone in a room, and I did that before. I was the one training people, like God giving my age again. That people are not interested in that. Some still are. So that's the importance of being close to your audience, to your users, to your employees, and have different methods. So the last time I migrated a group, we had different options. So if you want to come and have a in-person training, come over. If you want to check small or short videos, you go for it. If you want to just go live because you use it at home and you feel confident, be my guest, right? And on top of that, you had people from our service desk walking around, and day one, hey, do you need anything? And as Ashley mentioned more than once, have fun. Like balloons and cookies and logos and swag, and people, they will roll with the change. They will understand, well, the visual hints do, will help them get that it's time to embrace the change.
I think it's an evolution. So you're going to learn a lot from the earlier phases, like what your employees need, but not everyone is the same. So some people are going to need a little more hands-on. Some people just want a library. What we did is we had a Going Google site. So it was a Google site that literally was everything for Going Google. Trainings, comms, short videos. We had everything there for user guides, and then we had a few different sessions that people could come to just to learn about Gmail fundamentals, calendar fundamentals, Sheets fundamentals. That's what they really need in the beginning. But like I said, it's an evolution. As people are on the tools, they're going to be wanting some more advanced stuff. So we did a lot of forums like, what are you trying to do? What do you want to hear from us? And we would throw quick 10 to 15-minute sessions on the calendar that people could come. We'd record and post on that Going Google site to teach them some of the more advanced stuff. And another key thing is we did office hours. So we had a 3-hour office hour session that allowed anyone to come in and ask questions. And I think you don't necessarily need to spend 2 months doing training, but it's just trying to figure out what your people need and then providing them the means to tell you what they need. I think that's the key.
I think excellent points. I would generally take the view most training isn't going to be worthwhile. It's going to be self-paced. Just you need to know your team members, you need to know your organization. In our case, we worked by different business areas, and certain personas we spent much more active time with, either because of the complexity of their role, or we saw them as potential champions or inhibitors if we didn't. Like a prime example for us, which I think is common for most large organizations, is executive assistants and administrators. Like those are critical roles that we knew if we didn't spend time with them, it was going to directly impact buy-in and support at the executive level. So that's an example of a group that we spent a bit more time with. The last comment I'll make just very quickly is don't underestimate the value of community-based support. So in addition to the examples that were shared, we have very active Google chat channels where although our team is in there and answering questions, a lot of it is the team members are helping one another, which is a fantastic thing to build buy-in and support. Also reduces a lot of pressure on our team.
All right. Well, thank you, Michelle, Steve, and Ashley. We're at time here. I'm sorry, we've got another session coming in. I apologize. However, like I said, I'll be down on the floor in the booth if anybody wants to stop. I love talking about this, and I'm sure we'll be around here. So to finish up, and you can see all the ones that we were going to talk through. But I think that is it. So thank you very much, everybody, for this session.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,